Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company here on the 440 Sports Network, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube at Stillman and Co. Here on the program today. Again, like and subscribe, and I'm only going to say like and subscribe every single time that I'm on, because I just, quite frankly, I want you to like, I want you to subscribe. Our numbers are actually good for a new program. They're actually really good for a new program, but we want them to be better. So like and subscribe. Caroline will hop on the program here in about 35 or so minutes. But I want to start today's program with a rant, if I may. And this was not what I was planning to start today's program with. It was not. In fact, there was something that Blake Bedingfield wrote, the former Titans director of college scouting, wrote at paulkaharski.com, that I've really been waiting to get to all week, and I think it's a great topic. And so it'll probably be the leadoff topic tomorrow, unless something happens. But oh my God, I have got to start. I have got to start here on the program with something that has driven me up an absolute wall over the last, I don't know, 8 o'clock last night. What would that be? 18 hours, 19 hours, something like that. Where the Titans, and I'm talking about the owner and the front office and everything else and whatever, we should be talking about what the Titans should be doing and not what I'm about to get into. But considering that many of you listen because you want the Jared Stillman experience, again, this isn't like being on the radio. This is people choosing to listen to the show, which I do appreciate. I'm going to go with my gut. And instead of getting to the Blake Bedingfield topic I want to talk about, I'm going to start on the topic that is driving me crazy. And I'm not going to claim that I have heard or listened to everything that has been out there in the stratosphere surrounding the Tennessee Titans and their 0-2 start. But I've heard a lot. I've read a lot. I've listened to a lot. I've heard a lot of the chatter. And I've got to tell you what I'm hearing the most of from the media, not the fans. This is not about you people. This is from what I have been hearing from the media. And it's a lot of excuse making, and it's a lot of sympathizing, and it's a lot of, well, we'll see when it comes to the Titans and their 0-2 start. And in some cases, it feels like downright lying. And I have to be honest, I don't totally get it. This team is terrible. This team was terrible last year. This team is terrible this year. This team has no discipline. They had no discipline last year. This team has few impact players. They had few impact players last year. This team has no edge rusher on it. And their leading sacker from a year ago currently leads the NFL with 3.5 sacks. It's a disaster. It was a disaster last year. They said, hey, we know this is going to be kind of tough. And it's a disaster this year. They kept the coach and drafted a quarterback with the hope, and again, that's all this was, a hope that the quarterback could save the coach. And just like last year with Will Levis, where it was apparent 2 games in that this guy did not have what it takes to be a quarterback in the NFL, it is apparent 2 games in that entire line of thinking, let's draft Brian Callahan a quarterback, let's see what Brian Callahan can do, was completely misguided. Last year was week 3 when the fans, again, you people, it was 3 weeks in when the fans realized, yeah, that entire offseason of toxic positivity, yeah, it was all for naught. It was the Green Bay debacle. And you knew after week 3, 0-3, crushed at home by Malik Willis, you knew the season was over. You knew it. And it's hard for me to not look at the 2025 season. It's hard for me to look at it and not say, yep, this season's over too. because they're going to fire Callahan at the end of the year. They're going to hire a new coach. I have no idea who the new coach they're going to hire is going to be, but they're going to turn around. They're going to hire a new coach, and when they go out there and they hire the new coach, they'll be starting all over again next year with a new head coach and a new system for Cam Ward, and hopefully Cam can survive that. But in most cases with young quarterbacks, when you constantly change things on them, it doesn't work. And the reason you have to constantly change things on them is not because you made the decision to fire the coach after 1 year. It's because you made the decision to keep the coach before you drafted the quarterback, which you probably shouldn't have done. So I'm going to be honest with you. Absolutely everything in Titanland is bad. Everything is bad, except maybe the special teams. But again, the offense is bad. The defense is bad. The coaching is bad. The roster is bad. The quarterback, while he has done some good things, he has not been good. It's bad, 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 bad. And again, there's nothing that's going to change between now and the end of the year unless a miracle happens. There is nothing that's going to change between now and January. And yet everybody here in the media is saying things like, well, it's not Callahan's fault that John Ojukwu jumped off sides. PK this morning. Holy crap. I heard Corey Curtis. You know, I love Corey Curtis. I love Corey Curtis. He was today saying, hey, they were in these two games. At least they had a shot to win these two games. That's where we're at now. Congratulations, they didn't get blown out. By the way, they lost 33-19. That's still terrible. I hear questions that are being asked of guests. So, do you think that Brandon Crenshaw Dixon can get into the lineup this week and make a difference? I'm like, you people, what are we talking about? Yesterday on YouTube, 3HL on 104.5, their show title was Finding the Positives in the Titans 0-2 Start. Guys, there are no positives. This team sucks, and they're going nowhere with this coach, so we all have to wait until they fire the coach to see if they can go somewhere. There are no positives. And then last night, and I let this go the first time because I don't really know Taylor Zarzour, the new play-by-play voice of the Titans. By the way, congratulations to Mike Keith, ladies and gentlemen, being honored in the Titans Ring of Honor this Sunday. He deserves it, and I love Mike Keith with all my heart. So I don't know Taylor Zarzour from a jar of Vicks. I was the one who did report that he was going to get the job. By the way, I don't know if I made a big deal about this when it happened, but I reported, and I want to say this was like in June or July or sometime around then. Maybe it was earlier than that. I reported that Zarzour was going to get the job. Then Buck put out a report saying that Zarzour was a finalist with two other guys for the job. And I told Buck at the time, I'm like, Buck, like, it's going to be Zarzour. And people were like, I don't trust Jared Stillman. I trust Buck. I'm like, Buck, it's Zarzour. Like, I know it's Zarzour. I'm reporting it's Zarzour. And by the way, it was Zarzour. But I digress. So, and I don't know if Buck knew that it was going to be Zarzour or if Buck had thought that it was Zarzour versus these other guys or if the Titans told Buck, no, say it's Zarzour versus these other guys because I'm telling you, it was Zarzour. I knew it was going to be Zarzour. I reported it, whatever. So I don't know Taylor Zarzour. But last night, watching the coaches show, this is how it started. Again, this is the Titans football with Brian Callahan. It's the team show. They used to actually do these shows back when I was a kid. They used to have the News 2 sports director do the show with Jeff Fisher with an audience. It was actually kind of an entertaining show. I used to watch it as a kid. Now it's all propaganda. This was the beginning of Titans football with Brian Callahan going over the game on Sunday.
By Coach Callahan to provide his insight on the game and Callie's official review. We went toe-to-toe, Coach, with a playoff caliber team. Cam Ward obviously played well. Offense had some great opportunities, had the lead at halftime. What'd you think?
Coach, we went toe-to-toe with a playoff caliber team. What'd you think, Coach? And I let it go the first week, last week, because I know most people don't watch a coach's show. I let it go last week when after they were penalized 13 times for 131 yards, Taylor Zarzour was standing there with Brian Callahan with his tablet in front of him, praising the Pee Wee program and saying that the Pee Wee program was going to pay dividends this year. So I let that go. Didn't make a big deal about it. Again, guys doing the job, let's let it go for a second. I also kind of let it go because I forgot to bring it up, but I let that go. Then this week we start the coaches show with, Coach, we went toe-to-toe with a playoff caliber team. Dude, you lost 33-19. What world am I living in? Again, where we have radio shows that are supposed to be truth-telling shows saying, let's find the positives in the 0-2 start. The new Nissan Stadium hasn't fallen down. I guess that's a positive, right? And I have to ask this question. Why can we just not call it like it is? Why can we just not call it like we see it? Why is everybody afraid to say the truth? And I don't know what it is, but it does feel like this city is so afraid at times to call a spade a spade. And I actually thought about this for a long time when I was still on the radio. And I was like, if I'm ever not on the radio or if I'm ever not doing something in this town, I look at what's on the air and the things people say, and I'm like, is this what the kids are going to grow up listening to? Is just for the umpteenth time for the fourth year in a row, can Chigakonkwo be a starting tight end? Let's talk it over. Again, Ramon Foster today asked Rhett Bryan. And I can't even listen to that Ramon Foster show because it just is boring. Like, it's not even bad. It's just boring. But he asked him if Brandon Crenshaw Dixon was going to start this week or get in. I'm like, dude, they just cut him. Now they're going to start him? If they do, you should say that everybody running that team is stupid. But you'll never, ever, ever hear that from anybody. You'll never hear that, even though everybody knows it and it's the truth. Again, why can't we call it like we see it? That's all I'm asking for. I know not everybody has a negative approach to things like me. And I know there is a chance that this team could get good. But what are you basing that off of? Here's how I see it. This team is terrible. They have a terrible coach, and it is inevitable that at some point in time, the head coach is going to be relieved of his duties. Whether that is at the end of the season, whether that is in the middle of the season, I don't know. It is inevitable. He played his card. His give me another chance. It was called the Pee Wee program. Remember I thought long and hard about what plagued us last year, and it was our cohesion. So this year we're going to redo the locker room, and we're going to have this off-season program, and this is going to be what makes a difference, and this is what, and people in the media bought that shit. I didn't, but when I didn't buy it, I was a hater. And now I got Kaharski sitting there saying, oh, no, it's not Callahan's fault that they get penalized all the time. Well, then whose fault is it? He played his card. It was the Pee Wee program. It didn't work. He chose not to play the card of firing his offensive or defensive coordinator. He chose not to lobby for a veteran quarterback who can get the ball out on time. He played the card he had. He sat at his desk. He thought long and hard about it. He decided to implement the Pee Wee program. He drafted Cam Ward, and he hoped that things would get better. And what's the old saying? Shit in one hand, hope in the other. See which one fills up faster. And with Callahan, it's not 2 games, folks. Because I'm sure there will be somebody out there that says, Jared, it's only 2 games. It's not 2 games. It's 19 games. He is 3-16 as a head coach. It has been an abject failure. Period. And by the way, it's not just Callahan. His superiors in the building have failed at giving him a team to be competitive with or win with. But again, where's the hammering? Where's the hammering? Amy Adams Strunk, for effing it up at the beginning of all of this. Keeping Brian Callahan on as they transitioned and they got a new general manager. Where is the hammering? Why do we have to be so soft in this town? Why? Why can't we just say what it is? And I'm not saying this is everybody in the local press. I just want to make that known. Because it's not everyone, but it is the tone with the media. Again, I hear stuff like, hey, let's get a guy on our show to sit here and preview the Colts game on Sunday. Are Titans fans worried or concerned about Daniel Jones right now? Like, big picture. When you're talking about the team, are you really taking into Sunday's game saying, if we can win Sunday, then we can? Or are you looking at it saying, oh, God, here goes another long season, and then we can get rid of Callahan? You know it. Like, that's it. You know it. And so I just am so frustrated with the coverage of this team. I'm so frustrated with the pandering, with the acceptance, with the, Paul said today, I have to go in the locker room and talk to these guys, so I'm not going to pick them to lose by 20 points. I'm like, so, okay, you just don't want to say what you think because you're afraid they'll get mad at you? And for years, I felt like it was the Titans who were perpetuating this nonsense that everything had to be sunshine and rainbows and lollipops. Rand Carthon saying stuff like, we checked every box this offseason when they didn't have a right tackle. Or Mike Vrabel bragging about net punting when their special teams were an abject failure. But those guys are gone. I don't think it's the Titans themselves that are trying to push a positive narrative. And again, I for years thought it was the Titans wanting everybody to be positive all the time. I don't think if Taylor Zarzour sat down with Brian Callahan on the coach's show. Now, of course, Taylor Zarzour is not going to say, Coach, this team fucking stinks. Your thoughts. But he can say, Coach, another tough one this week against the Rams. What did you see in the game that makes this team that you can work on to get back on track? Something like that. Instead, Coach, we went toe-to-toe with them boys. Give me a break. It's embarrassing. Again, I don't even think Burke Nihill is watching the show and thinking, good job, Taylor. Way to put lipstick on that pig. I'm sure he probably watched it, if he watched it, and probably thought to himself, I mean, did we go toe-to-toe? We lost 33-19. Go toe-to-toe. I mean, this brings me back to the end of the Vrabel tenure. Diana Rossini and Ian Rappaport were both reporting that Vrabel's seat was flaming hot going into Week 18. Remember, they played Jacksonville. It was Vrabel's last game, and Derrick Henry ran and then said goodbye to the fans and all of that. The Titans won that game. And again, before the game started, Rossini and Ian Rappaport were talking about, yeah, it's up in the air that Vrabel may or may not come back. So I'm listening to Vrabel's postgame show as I'm leaving the game, or I'm listening to Vrabel's postgame interview, press conference. And I'm just waiting to hear somebody ask Vrabel a question like, do you expect to be back as the head coach? Again, this is what the national people are talking about. This is what everybody in town was talking about. Are you going to ask Vrabel that question? And not one person in the room asked Vrabel about these massive rumors that his job was on the line. It was me who had heard through my sources the next day that, yeah, I hear Vrabel's not coming back. In fact, I go back to when Diana Rossini put it out on Thanksgiving that Vrabel was going to return as the coach. And everybody locally just kept saying, yep, Vrabel's returning. Vrabel's coming back. He's going to be the coach. And I said, they lied directly to your face when they said Mike Mularkey was the coach going forward. You don't think they're going to lie again? And it's not an access issue. It's not a Titans issue. This is a how the Titans are covered issues. Like, I'm on their asses all the time, and I have plenty of fair access. And I actually appreciate that about the Titans and the Predators in this town. They know I got a job to do, and they treat it as such. Now, I've seen people in the YouTube chat and things like that say, Jared's access is going to be revoked, and I'm like, there has not been one conversation about, Jared, we're going to ban you from the building because you're too tough on the team. So it's not a Titans issue. So can I just say, enough with the Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon talk? Hey, Brian, do you think Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon is going to make any difference in the game on Sunday? Can we have enough of trying to find the positives with the start of this season? There are no positives. Unless you think picking in the top 5 next year is a positive. I just expect better out of a local media. I expect there to be more teeth. This is a big city. There are a lot of people who live here. This is not the aw shucks town it used to be. I just expect more straight shooting than, well, it's not Callahan's fault that John Ojukwu got penalized and they're the most penalized team in the league. Because when you say things like that, it feels dishonest. And I'm not here to sit there and say everybody should be fired, even though the owner is bad. And I love her because she's a good person, but she's bad. And the Brinker-Borgonzi situation, I don't know. And then Callahan, I mean, again, I'm rooting for him, but I'm betting against him. And now I think most of you are doing that. It's not like it has to just all be crap on the Titans every day. But that's what the Titans are. Crap. I watched James Foster's breakdown here on 440. His Cam Ward film breakdown. It's a 10-minute video on the 440 YouTube page. I suggest everybody go check it out. But I watched it, and he showed a play where Chig just completely fucked up. And I'm like, this is the guy that every year Titans media says, oh, yeah, no, these guys are Chig, he's going to pick it up this year. How many times have we been waiting on Chig to learn how to catch the ball? It's season 2 with Brian Callahan. There hasn't been anything that tells you that this guy knows how to coach. And yet, people that cover this team are going out of their way to defend him, and I don't get it. Just call it like it is. They've wasted the first year of Cam Ward's career with a coach who 99.9% won't be here next season. And yet there still seems to be some sort of half in and half out. And again, well, if Chig does learn how to catch the ball, it's been 4 years. Chig ain't learning how to catch the ball, folks. So can we just call it like it is? Can we just call it like we see it? So I had to start today with that rant. I mean, I am legitimately pissed off. I sit there listening to the radio and I'm thinking to myself, my God, it's all, oh yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good. You know, hey, again, Corey Curtis. I had to text Corey Curtis today when I heard him say, you know, they haven't been blown out this year. Last year, they went on the road to Buffalo and they got blown out, and it hasn't been like that. I'm like, Corey, they were winning at halftime in that Buffalo game last year. It was exactly like this year. You look good for the first half of the game. You give people hope that maybe you can win, and then you come out in the second half and get your ass kicked. Goodness gracious. Kai says, exactly what I've been thinking, Jared. Nashville is not some podunk town anymore, and the people want to come here. They're not going to cheer for losers anymore. Did you see the crowd on Sunday? Now, I didn't go to the game. And this Sunday, I kind of want to go to the game. I don't know why I want to go to the game, but I kind of want to go to the game. But then we got post-game live afterward, and if it's a good game, I'm not going to want to leave in the third quarter and all of that. So who knows if I'm going to go to the game or not. But did you see the crowd for a home opener with a number 1 pick? To me, it's like the fans are sitting there saying, yeah, no, we're good. No, we're good. Too hard to park. No, thank you. Too hard to park. One person says, people trying to say that losing 33-19 isn't that bad is crazy. Yeah, again, I couldn't get over that. Again, I let it go. I let it go last week when they said on the broadcast, again, after being penalized 13 times for 131 yards, I let it go when they said on the coach's show, Coach, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, Coach, you really spent a lot of time and effort this offseason in making the team a closer bunch, and I'm sure that's going to pay dividends down the road. And like even Callahan's expression when he said that was kind of like, yeah, I hope. I mean, you got penalized 13 times for 131 yards. I'm not trying to necessarily feel that way. So that's first thing. Again, I wasn't planning to talk about this. I wasn't mad at the media until, again, I kept hearing everything in a row. I heard Brandon Crenshaw Dixon talk, and I said, holy crap. I said, okay, that's enough. So that's first thing. Now, there is something I want to get to when it comes to Brian Callahan, because the semantics of this seem to be the discussion and not the reality of it. And that is the halftime adjustments. So for the second game this year, the Tennessee Titans came out in the second half and could not move the football down the field, just like the Denver game, just like pretty much every game last year, which leads the average fan to say, well, clearly we're not making halftime adjustments. Or if the fan is saying we're not making halftime adjustments, then they're probably thinking, well, the other guys are coaching better than our coaches. And I think that theory is worth discussing and is probably true. But what this now has become is it has gone from, again, the fan saying, wow, we stink in the second half. Clearly we're not making halftime adjustments. And the media and the coach saying, well, you can't really make adjustments at halftime. There's not enough time to go over adjustments at halftime. And getting too caught into the actual semantics of what's happening at halftime. In fact, Brian Callahan was asked specifically about halftime today. Here's what Brian Callahan said.
It's maybe the first drive out of the third quarter, ready to roll, kind of preview some things. The only thing that we spend the most time on is just going back through any protection issues that we got to put up on the screen. That's really the bulk of the time is, it ends up feeling like 3 minutes. It's probably like 5 or 6. It's not that much time at halftime when it's all said and done. Try to preview kind of the next handful of things that are coming, but those are all conversations that we have in between series, sort of the entirety of the game. I do think, as I said before, there's a little bit of a overblown nature of like halftime adjustments that gets thrown around. There's just not a lot of time at halftime, and those conversations are ongoing. After every series, we're having conversations about how we're being played, what the counter is to the next play, what was good before we need to come back to, where do we need to continue to head, or what part do we need to get away from. Those conversations are ongoing. They happen the entirety of the game. So the halftime thing is what it is. There's a little bit of time to have a conversation or two further, but for the most part, it's just a continuation of what we'd already been talking about leading up to it.
Did you say you are able to put stuff up on video for guys to see in that?
Not video. We can bring the surface down. There's the normal sideline tablets, and we plug it into a projector, and we can go through. We can annotate on those pictures over the course of the game. So we make notes and do stuff. So we go through during the series. You just flip through them and the notes are on there. But then any particular pressure looks or something we want to make sure we hit again, you can pull that picture up and talk through it on an overhead, but no video.
Okay. So what drives me crazy about this is the idea that the halftime adjustment talk really is just all about halftime. Well, there's not enough time during halftime to adjust. Here's what we do during halftime. We adjust during the game. Whenever you make your adjustments, I don't give a shit. Whenever you make your adjustments, you're not making good enough adjustments. Because I did some digging this morning. In 19 tries, Brian Callahan has been the head coach 19 games. They have been in front at half 8 times. They are 3-5 in those 8 games. On average, they are leading when they are leading at the half 11-6, and they lose the game 23-19. That is not an accident. I don't know what the league average is, but I'm going to assume that if you're leading at halftime, most teams usually are better than 50%. You've already got a head start. The Titans have lost, under Callahan, almost double the amount of times in which they've had a lead at halftime than they've won. That's not an accident. If you want to get all technical about when the adjustments come or don't come, or do they come at halftime, do they come during the game, to me, you're really just trying to change the subject. You're really just trying to make this it's not technically halftime, you novice. You don't know anything about football. The question is, why are you getting out-coached? Pretty much every week. Again, you should not lose almost double the amount of times that you have the lead at halftime. And it gets worse because in the fourth quarter this season, the Titans have been outscored 20-3. And that includes Sean Payton's decision not to kick a field goal and Sean McVay's decision not to score a touchdown or kick a field goal. That's coaching. When Todd Downing was the offensive coordinator of the Titans, they would be up 23-10 at the half, and they'd win the game 23-22. And I'd wonder, what's happening at halftime? And people kept saying to me, D. Mace kept saying, they don't have the roster. And I'm like, if you have a roster good enough to score 23 first half points, how can you not have a roster good enough to score any points in the second half? And the truth is, Todd Downing just wasn't a very good coach. I think we can all agree. So if you want to debate the semantics of when the Titans are adjusting, because you're, I guess, trying to make excuses or have one of those we're trying to find the positive shows, be my guest. But the truth is, they aren't adjusting, whether it's at halftime, whether it's between series, whether it's during the game, and they didn't adjust last year. And I don't think Callahan can run from that much longer. I think at some point Callahan needs to actually address, hey, why are you guys getting out-coached? I don't know if he's going to do that, but I think he should. And one quick thing before we get to Caroline. So yesterday on the program, we debuted the official Stillman and Company current 1.0 coaching board. And as you can see, it's right there on your screen right now on the stream. Nick Saban, number 1. Again, I don't think Nick Saban would want the job, but if Nick Saban wanted the job, Nick Saban would get the job. Matt Nagy, number 2, the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Todd Monken, number 3, the offensive coordinator in Baltimore. Arthur Smith, number 4. Cliff Kingsbury, number 5. And Mike McCarthy, number 6. And the amount of bitching that I heard from you people yesterday after the program about that coaching board. As if, oh my God, that's such a depressing coaching board. Matt Nagy? I mean, come on. Guys, you think you're better than Matt Nagy? Matt Nagy has 2 Super Bowl rings in the last 3 years as an offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy was 34-31 in Chicago with Mitchell Trubisky. And before you make some sort of explanation about how Matt Nagy was no good when he was 34-31, your coach is 3-16. You think you're too good for Matt Nagy? And then the 2 names I keep hearing consistently, again, from you people, are John Gruden and Dennard Wilson. And both of those are absolutely preposterous. Number 1 on Gruden. Amy is taking loans from the NFL right now to build a stadium. You think she's going to hire the guy who is currently suing the NFL? And Gruden's best year running the Raiders in his second tenure in this era of football was 3-2 before he got canned in 2021. His best full year was 8-8. Yay! You're the people that hate John Robinson. He won more games than that. And Floyd told me when Gruden was on TV and there was talk about Gruden going to the Colts at one point, and I said, oh my God, if Gruden goes to the Colts with Andrew Luck, what are we going to do? And Floyd was like, I ain't worried about Gruden. So that's the first thing. The number 2 thing is Dennard Wilson. What has Dennard Wilson done that says he's qualified to be an NFL head coach? He is the defensive coordinator of the 27th ranked defense in the NFL. Their defensive EPA last year, that is expected points added, was -90. As in, they gave up 90 more points than they should have. That is awful. And I'm not saying that Dennard Wilson can't be an NFL head coach, but as of right now, he hasn't done anything to be qualified as a head coach in the NFL. So when you tell me something about Dennard Wilson or John Gruden, you're just telling me that you want somebody whose name you know or somebody that is a total unknown, but it makes you comfortable for whatever reason. But maybe we should let Dennard Wilson coordinate a good team first, or be desired by a good team to be their coordinator before you make him the head coach of a team with a young quarterback. Okay, so I want to get that out of the way, and without further ado, it is time. Caroline Fenton joins the program, Yahoo Sports, here as always. So, Caroline, you have walked in. I have been ranting for the last 36 minutes on a lot of different topics. The Titans, definitely been ranting about that. The coverage of the Titans, and who's going to be coach next. Do you think it is a bad thing? Do you think I am wrong for the fact that I have decided that, you know what, let's just go ahead and talk about who's going to be coach next year because it is over for Brian Callahan?
You're not wrong, but man, oh man, is that depressing. That it is September 17th, and we are talking about a coaching search. That is just so depressing. The same way that it's depressing that we were talking about the draft in like October of last year. You're not wrong. I mean, Brian Callahan, I think, has shown too many tactical errors, lack of development in the team, and he's also just kind of getting old. Like the shticks, the kumbaya, it's getting a little bit old. That is not to say that Brian Callahan can't improve, that Brian Callahan can't turn this ship around, that Brian Callahan can't turn this season into something that makes you optimistic. Sure, that's absolutely in the realm of possibility, but is it a probability? No. Is it something that I'm willing to put my money on? No, absolutely not. So that is a list of doozies, though, that you have there, including John Gruden and Dennard Wilson. And Cliff Kingsbury, haven't we done that? Haven't we tried that?
Well, doesn't Cliff get a second chance? Because of what he's done in Washington.
He's hot?
No, what he's done in Washington. He's below.
He's a great coordinator. Nobody would ever argue that he's not a good coordinator. That he's got a great offensive mind. That he can't be, that you're the perfect marriage between Jaden Daniels or any other mobile quarterback in the NFL. But is he a head coach?
No.
Yeah, I
don't think so. I can't get over. See, that's why I have him below Arthur, because I can't get over the Texas Tech thing. He was bad at Texas Tech. He was bad in Arizona.
Yeah.
You know,
some guys are just coordinators.
I'll give him his credit for what happened with Washington, but I have a hard time. I do want to give Arthur Smith another chance to be a head coach. And I also have to I feel like this world and maybe even this town, there's a way too much of the unknown coordinator and just assuming that guy's going to be a great coach. I hear people talk about Ben Johnson, and it's like, Ben Johnson is such a great coach. And I'm like, based off of what? Like, Ben Johnson, maybe he's a great coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I don't know. But it's like everybody wants this young, sexy coordinator that they've never heard of, and they think that head coaching experience is bad because everybody who's no longer a head coach got fired. And I just think a guy like Arthur Smith does deserve a second chance, Caroline.
Well, and to be fair, whenever Ben Johnson was potentially the next free agent on the market, I wanted him. Like, I would have hired him. I absolutely would have done it in a heartbeat. But that's not to say that there's a guarantee that any of these young, sexy offensive coordinator, offensive-minded coaches are going to end up being the next Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. But it's worth a shot. Like, I absolutely, if I was an owner, if I had a head coaching vacancy, I would have hired Ben Johnson. I think he could be successful in Chicago. I don't know. There's just no guarantee. I thought that, Dan Quinn was going to be kind of a dumb hire in Washington. I thought he was going to be the first coach fired of that group of coaches hired in that coaching cycle. Dan Quinn's coming off of the NFC Championship game. You want to say that's more Jaden Daniels than it is Dan Quinn? That's fine. He's still the head coach. So, I don't know exactly what the perfect formula is. I think Mike McCarthy is a great call. I think any coach that can win as much as he did in Dallas with an owner like Jerry Jones making absolute idiotic decisions and breathing down your neck the entire time deserves another shot. Like, does anybody think that Mike McCarthy was the biggest problem in Dallas?
No.
Like, I think we have enough of a sample size to understand it's Jerry. It's always been Jerry. And as long as Jerry is there, the Cowboys won't be competitive. or at least won't win a Super Bowl. They'll be competitive in the regular season, but they won't win a Super Bowl. I wouldn't mind Mike McCarthy. I think that would be a good call. But at some point, you have to make up your mind that we are okay changing the infrastructure for our young quarterback, because you only get one crack at this, in my opinion. You only get one crack at changing the coaching staff with a young quarterback. Then you become the Cleveland Browns. Then Cam Ward is guaranteed to be ruined because he has zero continuity and zero structure around him.
Okay, with that being said then, do you think that it's wrong that here we are 2 weeks into the season and we're talking about who's going to replace Callahan? I think it is a foregone conclusion. I think he's gone at some point, the end of the year, the middle of the year. I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care, because it's not as if you're going to go hire your next coach in the middle of this season.
Yeah.
I think it is inevitable. And I think there's a desire, because the season is so new and people don't just want to go ahead and turn the page to 2026, that the media and maybe some of the fans are saying like, whoa, hold on, wait up. Let's not necessarily just jump off the ship yet. I'm ready to do it. Are you?
No, I'm not quite ready to do it just yet. It does feel inevitable. I'm with you there. And that's not just you and me. That's not just Titans fans. It's everybody that I work with at Yahoo Sports is like, yeah, Brian Callahan. Yeah, he'll probably be, in broadcasting or in the Nick Saban School of Coaching Rehabilitation at some point. So it's not just us. I do, though. I have to leave myself room to let Brian Callahan get closer to my good graces than he is right now. Because what I don't want to do, and I don't want Titans fans to do, and what I don't want you to do, is have your mind made up by week 2 that there is nothing that can happen that can change your mind. No good that you're willing to grasp onto that could make you think maybe, just maybe, this experiment that has felt like it has gone all but wrong, or all but right, rather, since he got hired, can't maybe turn out to be something that could turn this ship around. So
Caroline,
I am very much so on the side of Brian Callahan probably will be fired, but I cannot say definitively today, yes, I am fully 100% on board.
Caroline is with us here on the program. I do want to get your thoughts on Vanderbilt. And the reason I bring this up is I think Vanderbilt's for real. I think Vanderbilt is one of the 15 best teams in the country. And if you are one of the 15 best teams in the country, you are a contender for a 12-team playoff. I think they've got a shot. I think it's going to be tough because I think their schedule is ruthless. But I'm trying to separate brand prestige and what we thought of teams going into the year and what we've seen them do on the football field. So I take a team like Texas. Vanderbilt is supposed to go on the road. They're supposed to play Texas. Well, coming into the year, Texas was number 1. Texas has great brand prestige. I don't even know against Vanderbilt's defense if Texas is going to be able to get a first down. I think they're going to be 5-0 going to Tuscaloosa. I don't have any idea if Alabama is any good. Brand prestige says they're good, but I have no idea if they're any good. I think that they're 20th and not 15th in the country because they're Vanderbilt, but I think they're legit, and I think they're a playoff contender. Do you?
I do. I actually just talked about that on my Yahoo Sports show this morning, Yahoo Sports Daily, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. Check us out. I made the case for Vanderbilt to be a college football playoff team. And if you think that's crazy, all the Tennessee fans out there rolling their eyes at this, ESPN's FPI gives Vanderbilt a 27% chance of making the CFP. That's not like a far cry. That's not just an itty bitty grasp of a percentage that you're holding on to. That is a legitimate possibility that Vanderbilt could find themselves there. And you bring up Texas. Well, last year, I think Texas was probably a better team. I can say probably definitively. They were a better team last year than what we've seen through 3 weeks. That Texas Vanderbilt game was a 3-point game. Like, that was a close game last year. They're a worse team this year. I think Vanderbilt is a better team this year. And what I think is super dangerous about Vanderbilt is they have this mentality that I think is a trickle-down effect from Diego Pavia. They don't care. Like, they do not give a single crap what colors you're wearing, where they're playing, where you're ranked, what the last name is on the back of your jersey, cough, cough, Arch Manning. Like, they don't care. They don't care what the spread is. I felt like for so many years, there was just this overwhelming belief surrounding Vanderbilt and probably a decent bit within the building that, it's Alabama, it's Tennessee, it's Auburn, it's Texas. Like, we're Vanderbilt. We're not going to win. But now that belief is gone. That belief is like, who can't we beat? Why can't we beat them? Because we knocked off Alabama last year. We went into South Carolina's house, which is an underrated place to play. the 11th ranked team in the country and we beat them by 30 points. Like, why not? The schedule is a gauntlet. The schedule is an absolute gauntlet. But I was looking at that Vanderbilt LSU game coming up. Vanderbilt, according to the ESPN analytics, Vanderbilt has like a 60% chance of winning that game. You beat LSU, people can't ignore you anymore.
Did you say 16 or 60?
6D.
So ESPN says Vanderbilt has a 60% chance to beat LSU.
I will pull up the exact number.
Do you believe that?
Now. 59.6% in the ESPN matchup predictor.
Do you believe
I do. LSU's offense is terrible.
I mean, again, a 60% chance
is a lot.
going to beat LSU.
60 is a lot, but LSU is the worst offense in the SEC. They're averaging 20 points a game. I do believe, though, that LSU has one of the best defenses in all of college football. But, I mean, Diego Pavia is hard to stop. Triple options, tricky to prepare for. Like, I'm not going to bet on Vanderbilt beating LSU right now. That game's not for a couple of weeks. But, like, these are what the numbers are saying. This isn't just, like, some plucky little Vanderbilt team that everybody's all of a sudden buying into.
Am I a homer? Because yesterday when I was putting the coaching board together, I thought, okay, what college coach could leave college and could go to the NFL? And what college coach would leave college and go to the Titans? And there's just not that many. Like, I thought about Kirby Smart, but he makes $13 million at Georgia.
Yeah.
And the Titans are not going to pay a coach $13 million, which took me to Clark Lee. I don't think the college coach works in the pros if the college coach is too much of a control freak. If the college coach is Urban Meyer, if the college coach is one of these guys, it's like, Dabo Swinney, that gets upset about a question asked, which we'll get to in a second. I think it works if you can understand that sometimes you got to take your hands off and sometimes you have to let the coaches coach and you have to let the players play. And I feel like what Clark Lee did at Vanderbilt after they won 2 games 2 years ago was he said, okay, I've got to take my hands off and I got to let the coaches coach and I got to go get some better players and I got to go get some coaches that help me get the better players. And I think that the way he's coaching at Vanderbilt could work in the NFL. Am I a homer for thinking that?
Maybe. Because I love Clark Lee. I absolutely adore Clark Lee, who he is as a person, who he is as a coach, the way that he runs that program, the way that
Mike Gundy is not going to work in the NFL.
No. Mike Gundy isn't even working in college.
And then the best college coaches, like Dan Lanning, you can't pay. The Titans are not going to pay Dan Lanning what Oregon is going to pay Dan Lanning. So you're not going to get Dan Lanning. So it has to be a coach who would be a good CEO coach who can build a college program. And I'll say this, if you can build Vandy, you can probably build any kind of college program that can build a program and is not some over-the-top a-hole like James Franklin.
Brian Callahan gets fired. Would Clark Lee take his old buddy's job?
I mean, hey, man.
Like, your bestie pups. I mean, it's a job that Clark Lee would take.
How would you feel if Adam Schefter reports, again, nobody thought Brian Schottenheimer was going to be the coach of the Cowboys. How would you feel? Adam Schefter reports the Tennessee Titans are closing in on Clark Lee to be the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
I don't even really know how I would feel. I would be shocked, first and foremost. I don't know how optimistic I would feel about Clark Lee's success with the Titans.
Who's a better coach, Clark Lee or Callahan?
Well, Clark Lee.
Okay. If Clark Lee gets Vandy to the playoffs, is he qualified to be the Titans coach?
I mean, it's hard to say no because getting Vanderbilt to the playoff seems, impossible, right? Like, for the longest time, like, if I would have told you 2 years ago, even less, 1 year ago today, after Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State last season, that Vanderbilt would be in a playoff in the next season, you would think I was high.
Sometimes I do think that.
Yeah. What do you think I'm high? What do you think I'm doing?
No, I actually think it's probably more the other way around. But I do want to get to this. Dabo Swinney yesterday, boy, he was all pissed off. This is what Dabo Swinney said at his press conference as Clemson is 1-2 and stinking it up.
So if they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. to win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory, in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last. Always has been. Always will be.
Okay. What'd you make of Dabo's rant yesterday?
Man, quite the week of coaches making headlines and snarky comments to reporters and in press conferences. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you have won the ACC 8 of the last 10 years. Because what you just did was lose to Georgia Tech. What you are now is 1-2. That's great. The national championships were great. Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and winning the ACC all those years and getting to the playoff last year, all that was super fun. Everybody had a great time. You've built Clemson as a true legitimate contender year in and year out. What about this year? We talk about the NFL being a what have you done for me lately league. So was college football, sports, or what have you done for me lately leagues. So that's wonderful what you did last year and the year before and the year before that. What are you going to do this year? And it is so frustrating to me to hear Dabo have such a laissez-faire attitude and undermine how they've fallen short of expectations through 3 weeks and falling back on what they've done versus what they will do to dig themselves out of the hole that they're in right now.
Can I tell you what bothers me with these college coaches? Because Brian Kelly got into it in his press conference. Shane Beamer got into it in his press conference. Dabo got into it in his press conference. I actually don't think Dabo is necessarily wrong to defend himself. They did win the ACC and make the playoff last year.
But that's not what people want to hear right now.
It's not what people want to hear. And I think the question is, can Dabo succeed at the level he succeeded in the last era of college football and this new era of college football? But my bigger issue is this. Why can't these fucking millionaire coaches take a hard question? I mean, how fucking hard is it? I'm serious. How hard is it to have somebody ask you a question like, ask me the Brian Kelly question?
What's wrong with the offense?
Well, hey, it's the SEC. And, we've been in this league now long enough to tell you that anytime you get a win in this league, whether it was good offense, bad defense, good special teams, whatever it may be, I've learned that getting a win is getting a win, and we're very, very happy with the win we got here today. Next question.
That's all he needed to say.
I mean, why do these college coaches, NFL coaches get asked hard questions all the time? And very rarely do we see those kind of responses. Why is it the college coach that has to get their panties in a wad every 5 seconds? See, that's why I think those guys can't coach in the NFL.
Well, and it's like Brian Kelly said that he left Notre Dame to come to LSU because the standards were so high. Well, if you want to be held to a high standard, those are the questions that are going to be asked when you put up 20 points after the opposing quarterback gift wrapped you 5 interceptions. But I wonder if it's more a factor of the players in the locker room. But the college kids now, they're different, Caleb Williams was painting his nails and Ryan Williams has an anxiety doll, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I can't imagine going into a college football locker room 25 years ago and bringing in a Labubu as an anxiety doll. Things are just different. People have changed, There's a sense of kumbaya a little bit. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think that college kids now take to coaching or criticism the same way they may have in a pre-social media era. So I wonder if that's the coaches being so vehement in their defense of their teams and their locker rooms, because that's what it was from Brian Kelly, from Dabo. It was defending their team and defending their locker rooms. Is what we're doing not enough for you? And I would say, yes, what you're doing isn't enough. But it is kind of the coach's job to defend his players and defend his locker room. I don't defend what they said.
What the fuck is a Labubu?
You don't know what a Labubu is?
I've never heard of this before.
See, this is how I know we have been apart for too long. It's because you don't know what a Labubu is. It's those scary little gremlin, little fuzzy, little monster-looking things, little keychains.
And people have them to make themselves feel better?
Well, yeah, you clip them onto your purse. You clip them onto your a little belt loop on your pants, and they're so expensive. You buy a box, like a Labubu box, and what you get inside is a total surprise. So some of them can be super valuable. You can see Labubus going online for $50 grand.
$50 grand.
Yeah.
For a keychain.
For a Labubu. I do not have one. I do not spend my hard-earned money on keychains, but I won't yuck anybody else's yum.
Okay, I'm still struggling to understand this. So Ryan Williams has one of these $50,000 keychains.
He has a little anxiety doll. I don't know if it is a Labubu, but it's like a little stuffed animal. I'm sure he has a Labubu. Everybody has one these days. Catch up.
I've never heard of this before.
It's like a little monster fuzzy looking thing.
I mean, I guess I'm kind of caught up in all of this. Why does Brian Callahan not have one of these? I mean, he tried everything else. He tried the Pee Wee program, and that didn't work. Oh, yeah. You know what? That takes me to the last thing I want to touch on with you. So they got penalized 13 times. The Titans did in the first game. They got penalized 10 times on Sunday.
Solid.
And the media that was taking up for the Pee Wee program, the media has not said, boy, Callahan swung and missed on that Pee Wee program. Am I not allowed to take my victory lap on the Pee Wee program, given the fact that I knew it was bullcrap when he started it, and now because they keep committing penalties and they keep doing the same things they did last year, it's obvious that it was fugazi and only a moron would think that's going to make a difference?
Well, to be fair, even if I said it's not fair for you to take your victory lap, you still would.
I already have.
I don't know where my involvement matters in here, but it's fair. I mean, and maybe people are saying it's not fair to poke holes in every single thing that Brian Callahan does. When you're 0-2, you had a halftime lead against the Rams, then you absolutely blow it. You committed 23 penalties in 2 games. Everything gets picked apart and put under the microscope. That's what happens in the NFL. Can we also talk about how in his state media interview, they talked about how they were right in it with a really good team?
Yeah, we've already hit that today. The Taylor Zarzour coach. We done went toe-to-toe with them boys out there from L.A.
All right, he does not sound like that. Let's
that was my
reel it in a little bit. Yeah,
he got the job because Jim Nantz and Eric Church endorsed him. Like, that's why he got the job.
Taylor Zarzour is a good dude. But
I don't know him.
The question was ridiculous. I mean, that feels JV. Like, well, hey, the JV team was right in there with the varsity team in our scrimmage on Thursday. See you at the pep rally.
I mean, last week I let it go because I kind of forgot to complain about it. But he actually did last week say something to Callahan during the coach's show about, Coach, I know you really put an emphasis on this team bonding together, and I think that's going to pay dividends down the road. And Callahan kind of looked at him like, I hope. Even Callahan sitting there like, ugh.
To be fair, if this team was 2-0, you'd be like, good job with the bonding, Brian. Great bonding. Keep up the bonding.
But you know why I'm not doing that? Because they're not 2-0. Because it had zero effect on anything. Like, I knew it was going to have zero effect on anything.
But my point being, when you're undefeated, everything's great.
Hey,
when you haven't won a single game, everything deserves to be criticized.
And I think with the Titans, everything probably should be criticized. Caroline Fenton, Yahoo Sports Daily Live, every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Time. And, of course, wherever you get your podcast. And Caroline's all in on her WNBA coverage as well. I did see Paige Becker's got the Rookie of the Year during the J. Hud Spirit Tunnel, which I love. So congratulations to her as well. Caroline, we look all forward to all of that.
Appreciate you.
Yep, Caroline Fenton joining us here on the program. So I want to get on one last thing. And again, I think this is probably one of the best things that we do here at 440 Sports. And that is the James Foster film breakdown. So James Foster does a film breakdown every week. I think it is great. And I told him even last week when he came on the show, I said, let's go over camp, every week, because that's what people want to see. And I thought he did a fabulous job talking about, hey, the crux of it, and it's a 10-minute video, and it goes over all the good, the bad, and then some questions that James has. His big takeaway was, Cam's good, team and coaches stink. We can agree with that. But then when it comes to the sacks and it comes to the pressures, here's what James Foster said when looking at the film on his 440 Sports breakdown, and I do think this may be an issue we need to talk about with Cam Ward.
This game specifically, there was one recurring issue that I noticed. In most of these sacks I'm going to show, Ward has an open receiver who is, realistically within the progression. I think the best way to say it is when his internal clock goes off in his head, the response needs to be okay, I have half a second left, or I have exactly 1 second left before I have to release the ball. I know where I'm at as far as route development. I've got this backside dig coming open. If I buy 0.3 seconds, I can release the ball, maybe take a hit, but it shouldn't disrupt the throw. What's happening with Ward right now is that when his internal clock goes off, it's telling him to scramble almost all the time, and he ends up abandoning the progression, breaking the pocket when he would have had a route coming open if he just held onto the ball for a quarter second more. So like this play right here, this is...
Okay, so in the film breakdown, he's kind of saying like what happens with Cam, and this is common for young quarterbacks. Floyd used to tell me this all the time, that when a young quarterback gets pressured, he's taken off. Like that's it. Like, okay, hike, not there, go. We're going to have to see Cam stand in there. And when it comes to these sacks, instead of, okay, it's not there right away, now let me run, and then he runs into pressure, it's, hey, let me take a second. I may get drilled, but I am going to get this ball off. It reminded me a lot of Baker Mayfield on Monday night. Baker Mayfield knew both tackles were out, and he was playing with backup tackles, which meant one of three things. Either the ball has to come out early, I have to move out of the pocket right away. You'd see Baker take it, and he'd move the pocket right away, or I'm going to have to stand in there, and I'm either going to get sacked or I'm going to get blown up as I'm throwing the ball. It's one or the other. One of those three things. That's something Cam's got to learn. I am not willing to put all of the sacks on the offensive line, even though it is obvious to me that the fan base wants to put all the sacks on the offensive line and the media wants to put all the sacks on the offensive line. Say, Dan Moore, he sucks. Easy. The other thing James brought up that I am going to be keeping an eye on, there was a specific play where Brian Young got in the face of Cam Ward. And James said, I am wondering if Cam Ward is tall enough to be able to see over the pass rush. Because there were guys open, but Cam didn't throw it because James was hypothesizing that Cam couldn't see over. Well, I hate to say this, but Cam ain't getting any taller. So as much as we talk about how great that special play Cam made on Sunday was, and it was special. And I think Cam has been hurt by Calvin Ridley dropping the ball, Chigakonkwo dropping the ball, Tony Pollard dropping the ball, and I think Cam's got a bad coach, and there is a lot to like when it comes to Cam. There are still things that he's got to work on, and there are things that I'm a little cautious with. Again, he's not 6'6". Well, those 4 inches do help when you're trying to see over a guy who is 6'2". And when it comes again to that internal clock, it's not that Cam has to have it down pat today, because nobody's going to have it down pat today. The question I have is Cam going to develop that over the course of the year? And that is something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. That's going to do it for us today on a wonderful show here on the 440 Sports Network. We are back tomorrow. By the way, Joe Rexroad has said he is down to do Jared versus Joe here on the new Stillman and Company podcast. So we'll have to find a moderator because I don't want to ask Caroline to come on twice in a week, and maybe, but it does sound like Jared versus Joe may be making a return. Again, that's going to do it for us. We are out of here. Stillman and Company tomorrow at 2:00. And again, there's this big topic Blake Bedingfield wrote about at paulkaharski.com that is just so juicy that I've been waiting to get to all week. That is probably, unless something happens, what we're going to start on tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. And let me say this, subscribe. We need to get as many subscribers as we can. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Again, tell your friends, tell everybody, Stillman and Company right here, 440 Sports, and on YouTube at Stillman and Co. See everybody tomorrow at 2.